ABC Kinder Teach presents Did I Ever Tell You How Lucky You Are? Written by Dr. Seuss. When I was quite young and quite small for my size, I met an old man in the desert of Dries, and he sang me a song I will never forget. At least, well, I haven't forgotten it yet. He said in a terribly prickly or thorny place, but he sang with a sunny, sweet smile on his face. When you think things are bad, when you feel sour or not happy and blue, when you start to get mad, you should do what I do. Just tell yourself, Ducky, you're really quite lucky. Some people are much more, ever so much more, much more unlucky than you. Be glad you don't work on the Bungle Bung Bridge that they're building across Boober Bay at Bum Ridge. Ooh, that looks very dangerous. It's a troublesome world, or world filled with trouble. All the people who are in it are troubled with troubles almost every minute. You ought to be thankful a whole heaping lot, which means a lot, for the places and people you're lucky you're not. Just suppose, for example, you lived in Gay Zate and got caught in that traffic on Zate Highway 8. Look, it's just backed up in that direction, and it's backed up in that direction, and backed up in that direction, and that direction, and nobody knows where to go. Oh, it's just a mess. Or suppose, just for instance, you lived in Gay Zare with your bedroom up here and your bathroom up there. Okay, so you gotta go down these steps and over to these steps and then through here and then up to there and then up to there. Ooh, that would take a long time, especially if you really had to use the restroom. There's him, and that's where he's supposed to go. Suppose, just suppose, you were poor Herbie Hart, who has taken his thumb-dim-bu-later apart. Boy, he sure did. A lot of parts. He never will get it together, I'm sure. He never will know if the gick or the gore fits into the skrunks or the snunks or the snore. Yes, Ducky, you're lucky you're not Herbie Hart, who has taken his thumb-dim-bu-later apart. Ooh. He's going to be in trouble. It's going to be very expensive to get that thing fixed, I bet, right? Think they work you too hard. Think of poor Ollie Sard. He has to mow grass in his uncle's backyard, and it's quick growing grass, and it grows as he mows it. The faster he mows it, the faster he grows it, and all that is stingy. A person who does not like to spend money. Old Uncle will pay for his shoving that mower around in that hay or grass. Is a piffless, or not very much pay, of 2 duklas a day. And Ollie can't live on such piffless pay or low pay. So what do you think he does? He has to paint flagpoles on Sundays in grooves. How lucky you are you don't live in his shoes. Ooh, that looks pretty dangerous too, doesn't it? And poor Mr. Bix. Every morning at 6, poor Mr. Bix has his borfin to fix. That's his borfin. It doesn't seem fair, it just doesn't seem right, but his borfin just seems to go slump every night. It slumps in a heap, sadly needing repair. Bix figures it's due to the local night air. It takes him all day to unslump it or fix it. And then the night air comes back and it slumps once again. So don't you feel blue. Don't get down in the dumps or feel sad about things. You're lucky you don't have a borfin that slumps. And while we are at it, consider the schlots, the crumple horn, web-footed, green-bearded schlots, whose tail is entailed with unsolvable knots. See, his tail that has knots in it and he can't get them out. If he isn't muchly more worse off than you, I'll eat my umbrella, that's just what I'll do. He looks very sad. And you're lucky indeed you don't ride on a camel. To ride on a camel, you sit on a whammel. This is supposed to be the whammel. A whammel, you know, is a sort of a saddle held on by a button that's known as a faddle. There's a faddle. And boy, if your old whammel faddle gets loose, I'm telling you, ducky, you're gone like a goose, which means you'll fall off. And that's a pretty bad place to fall off there. And poor Mr. Potter, T crosser, I dotter. See, he's dotting the I's and he's crossing the T's there. He has to cross T's and he has to dot I's in an INT factory out in Van Nuys, which is a town. Oh, the jobs people work at out west near Hotch Hotch. There's a Hotch Hotcher, bee watcher. His job is to watch, is to keep both his eyes on the lazy town bee. A bee that is watched will work harder, you see. Well, he watched and he watched, but in spite of his watch, that bee didn't work any harder, not much, which means he stared at it thinking it was going to work harder, but it didn't. So then somebody said, our old bee watching man just isn't bee watching as hard as he can. He ought to be watched by another Hotch Hotcher. The thing that we need is a bee watcher watcher. Well, so they want to have somebody that watches him so that he does a good job of watching the bee. Boy, this is going to be trouble. The bee watcher watched the bee watcher. He didn't watch well. There's a bee watcher. So another Hotch Hotcher had to come in as a watcher. And today all the Hotchers who live in Hotch Hotch are watching on watching the watcher who's watching that bee. You're not a Hotch Watcher. You're lucky, you see. So this guy is watching the bee, this guy is watching this guy, this guy's watching this guy, this guy's watching this guy, etc., etc. And how fortunate or lucky you're not Professor DeBreeze, who has spent the past 32 years, if you please, trying to teach Irish ducks how to read Javanese. That seems like a hard job. And think of the poor puffing Pugelhorn players who have to parade down the Pugelhorn stairs every morning to wake up the Prince of Puboken. It's awful how often their pugels get broken. That's supposed to be their pugels right there. Ooh, look at that. That would be really hard to do. Really hard to do. And oh, just suppose you were poor Harry Haddo. Try as he will, he can't make any shadow. See, there's no shadow behind him. There's shadows behind all these other people. He thinks that perhaps something's wrong with his giz, and I think that, by golly, there probably is. And the brothers Bazoo, the poor brothers Bazoo, suppose your hair grew like theirs happened to do. His beard grows into this guy's hair. This beard grows into this guy's hair. You think you're unlucky. I'm telling you, ducky, some people are muchly, oh, ever so muchly, more unlucky than you. And suppose that you live in that forest in France where the average young person just hasn't a chance to escape from the perilous or dangerous plant-eating plants, but your pants are safe. You're a fortunate guy, or lucky, and you ought to be shouting, how lucky am I? And speaking of plants, you should be greatly gladdish you're not Farmer Falkenberg's 17th radish. And there's the 17th radish, and it looks like a worm's going to get it. And he's sleeping in a hammock. And there it is right there. And see how it looks up close, what it looks like. And you're so lucky you're not Gucky Gown, who lives by himself 90 miles out of town in the ruins of Ronk. Ronk is rather run down. And you're so lucky you're not a left sock left behind by mistake in the caverns of Croc. And there it is. Thank goodness for all of the things you are not. Thank goodness you're not something someone forgot and left all alone in some punkerish place, an old place, like a rusty tin coat hanger hanging in space. There it is. That's why I say, ducky, don't grumble or complain. Don't stew. Always feel sorry for yourself. Some critters, or animals, are much, oh, ever so much more unlucky than you.